Hello class, I'm Alan Dotson, and it is my joy to welcome you to the Spring 2019 Church Revitalization course at Clear Creek Baptist Bible College. It's the class numbered ECHU 3221. So if you're enrolled in the 2-hour class Church Revitalization Spring 2019, then you are indeed in the right spot. Welcome to the journey as we explore church revitalization together this semester. In this session, I just want to take time to do a couple of things. First of all, I want to introduce myself to you. I feel like if you're going to be watching my lectures every week and engaging with me in this class, you have every right to know who I am and where I've come from and my experiences in academics and the church setting, so you understand a little more about the perspective that I'll be bringing into the topic of church revitalization. And then the other thing I want to do is explore the significant portions of your syllabus for the class this semester. By the way, I hope you have your syllabus in hand. So if you're not looking at the 2019 Church Revitalization syllabus, let me encourage you just to pause the video right now and pull that up on another screen, or even better yet, print it off so that you can make some notes as we work through it tonight. Some of you jumped aboard a little bit early and you found a syllabus that was posted from last year. So if you've done that, I hope you found the newer syllabus. Again, that's very clearly labeled for the spring semester of 2019. So sorry for any confusion for those of you that looked at the syllabus perhaps a little bit early. So you want that syllabus in hand as we talk about all the specifics and the logistics of the course this semester. So let me tell you just a little bit about me, and in doing so, I am by no wise boasting. I have nothing to boast of except for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. But I will share with you again some of my experiences so you'll understand me and appreciate my journey and how I got to this place. So here's a little bit about your friendly neighborhood church revitalization prof. Again, Alan Dodson. I went to college, undergrad, at the University of the Cumberlands, where actually I was a church music major, believe it or not. And then also here at Clear Creek Baptist Bible College, where I was a biblical studies major with an emphasis in pastoral ministry. And then my graduate journey took me to the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary for my master's work, and New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary for doctoral work. Now, I know this is hard for you to believe because it doesn't seem like a young guy like me could have 29 years of ministerial experience, but believe it or not, this past fall, I did complete 29 years as a minister of the gospel and working in a variety of settings. 18 of those 29 years have been served as a senior pastor or preaching pastor, lead pastor, whatever you want to call that, of local churches. And now for the last 6.5 years, it's been my privilege to be in denominational ministry as I serve on the staff of the Kentucky Baptist Convention. God has blessed me to serve in a variety of settings as pastor. I've pastored in the rural, open country. My first church was a very rural place, and God blessed in a wonderful way, and I would never want to take back that experience. Great experience. It shaped me and formed me into the preacher and the pastor that I would become. So thankful for that. And then I've also pastored in the downtown county seat First Baptist Church setting. And then after that, a couple of churches I served were in large city suburban areas. I guess The only types of settings I haven't served in as a pastor would be number one, internationally, and then number two, I haven't served in an urban church, a downtown large city church. But beyond that, I've been just about everywhere in a variety of places that Southern Baptist life can take you. I've served as a single staff pastor where it was just me, and any of the staff leadership and ministry had to come from me. And then I've served in settings where I had other part-time and full-time staff members who were a blessing to me and my ministry, that we were able to serve together and do some wonderful things, I hope, for the Lord Jesus Christ. Three of the churches I served as senior pastors were revitalization situations. One of those was a church where the former pastor and staff didn't end their tenures there very well, and because of that, had to serve in revitalization. Another church, I was the second pastor in the history of the church, so it was a relatively new church. And so between their first pastor and me, it was a coming of age type thing for the church. First time they'd had a pastoral leadership vacuum, and so they experienced some difficulty during that interim time, and so I entered there in a revitalization situation. Just know that that is where we are largely in Baptist life. If you're going to serve, or if you are currently serving the established church as a pastor, it's very likely that that is a revitalization church. There are two basic tracks that we run on in Southern Baptist life. One is the track of church planting. We're trying to see a lot of churches planted, particularly in areas that have limited access to evangelical churches. And then the other track is the track of church revitalization. So it's just a fact that most of our churches are either plateaued or declining. And so you will, if you're not already, more than likely serve in a revitalization church. So it's for good reason that a Bible college like Clear Creek offers a revitalization class. As a matter of fact, not a lot of our colleges or even seminaries are offering just a purely revitalization class. In most of our schools, revitalization is a topic that's mentioned in a lot of pastoral ministry training, but as far as there being a singularly devoted class for revitalization, really Clear Creek is on the cutting edge. And so I'm thankful for the school, thankful for you, and thankful that you're putting this trust in me to allow me to guide you through our study this semester. Well, let me show you the better parts of me. This is my family. God blessed me at Southern Seminary to meet an amazing young lady by the name of Amy Wilson, who is now Amy Dodson. And so as Amy and I came together, and we were the two A's, Alan and Amy, being a good Baptist preacher, I wanted to have an alliterated family since God was up to something there. And so we named our two sons as they came along with A's, Alistair and Andrew. So there we are at Disney World, but Amy and I, and then our oldest son, Alistair, and then our youngest son, Andrew. I'll show you a close-up picture of both of the boys. There's Andrew. He and I were privileged actually just a few weeks ago to visit the Holy Land together. So there he is up on Masada with the desert and the Dead Sea there in the background. And this is a new reality in our home that we're getting used to, and that is to have a teenage son who's actually behind the wheel. You know this, there's a lot more prayer in the Dodson home these days. To share with you a little bit more about our current ministry, I said a moment ago that I serve the Kentucky Baptist Convention. That's my full-time work and ministry. I do teach this class as an adjunct prof here at Clear Creek Baptist Bible College, but where I spend the majority of my hours is in the South region of the Kentucky Baptist Convention. Several years ago now, when we were reorganizing the KBC, one of the priorities we had in that reorganization was to decentralize the ministry of the convention. In other words, we didn't want our churches always coming to and calling Louisville to find their help as they needed the convention, but we chose to establish regions across the state. And so now in Kentucky Baptist Life, there are 6 of us who work with the 6 distinct regions of Kentucky: the East region, the North Central region, South region, Central region, South Central region, and the West region. It's my privilege to serve in that rectangle there, the area that we call the South region of the convention. It's basically the I-75 South corridor in Kentucky, extending just under Madison County down to the Tennessee line, and east and west of I-75 by about 100 miles in a couple of spots. And sort of the center of that region is Somerset here in Pulaski County. So that's actually where I live. I work remotely out of the office in Louisville, but have the privilege of working out of my home, out of my car, and just serving the just under 500 churches of the Kentucky Baptist Convention that are here in the South region. You'll notice on the map that actually Bell County is a part of my region right there, and that's the location for those of you that may not have been to the campus of Clear Creek yet. That's where it's located, down in the southeastern part of the state. And so in my daily work, among many other things, one of the things I do help the churches of this region establish are plans for revitalization. Several of our churches are either plateaued or declining, and so I serve them by guiding them through revitalization processes. So that's just a little bit about me and my journey in ministry. And again, I hope that helps you understand how I approach this class. Let me say up front, as you watch this video, I want this to be an extremely practical class. As a matter of fact, I hope in a few weeks from now you finish this class and you say, that's the most practical class that I had this semester at Clear Creek. In fact, I hope you stick with your program and you graduate your program, and looking back, I hope you'll be able to say that. That class I had with Alan in church revitalization was just a very, very practical class. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. So for the next few moments now, I want to just guide you through a few things in your syllabus. First of all, let's take a look at the purpose of this course. You'll find that on page 3 of your syllabus, where I've written the purpose of this course is to provide an opportunity for students to increase their church revitalization knowledge and learn how to apply that knowledge in a practical way so that they are better, or they will be better prepared for Christian service. Again, I want you to notice that word practical. A lot of what we'll talk about may be superficially philosophical or academic, but it's going to be practical, nuts and bolts stuff that hopefully you can put to practice very quickly in the churches where you serve. So that's the purpose of the class. I want us to understand church revitalization as a subject, but even more, I want us to be able to put that knowledge we glean from these lectures, from the readings you'll do, from the writing you'll do, if you can't put all that together to be a blessing to the local church, then I've failed the intent of this class. So that's our purpose. And then along with the purpose, we have some objectives. At the conclusion of the course, the student will be able to demonstrate a few things. First of all, a knowledge of the discipline of church revitalization. Church revitalization as an academic subject or discipline is relatively new. It's been in evangelical life as a discipline for about a decade or so now, but particularly in these last 5 to 6 years, the discipline and the writings on church revitalization and the teaching of church revitalization has certainly heated up. And so it's a discipline. It's an academic, theological discipline, and I want you to know something about it. And then I want you to have an ability to intelligently discuss church revitalization with professional and lay ministry leaders. I suspect for a number of years to come, you're going to be hearing the terminology church revitalization. And so when you're talking with other pastors, when you're talking with denominational leaders, when you're engaging with the evangelical world at large, I want you to be able to intelligently discuss it. And then certainly you're going to be bringing the knowledge into the local church. And as you mention church revitalization to your lay leaders from an academic level, I want you to be able to explain it to them. And then again, I'll say it one more time. Number 3, I want you to have an ability to put church revitalization skills to practical use, helping a church experience revitalization. This is several years now that I've taught this course here at Clear Creek, and the greatest thing that I ever hear is when I'm at a convention meeting or maybe speaking at an associational event or preaching in a church somewhere, and I have one of my former students come up to me and say this, Alan, you know what we talked about in church revitalization, I was able to use it in my church, and we saw some things change, and we gained some positive momentum. That's when I know that what I do in this course really is successful. So if you can't use this practically in the church, then I have failed. So again, I hope you'll be able to finish this course and say that was very, very practical. Let me talk to you for a moment about your texts. There are a couple of books and then some booklets that I want you to be familiar with and to read this semester. Our primary text is a seminal work by Gary McIntosh entitled There's Hope for Your Church. Again, in the last decade or so, theological world has seen more and more works on church health and church revitalization, but to me, the most practical and I believe the very best book as far as a comprehensive view of church revitalization is my friend Gary McIntosh's There's Hope for Your Church. And so it's for a good reason I have you reading that. Number 2, I want you to read Leonard Ravenhill's classic work, Why Revival Tarries. That's an important book. It shaped a lot of lives. In fact, you probably are familiar with the name Ravi Zacharias. Well, Ravi says that the book Why Revival Tarries has been very influential to him, and many other leaders across the evangelical world will tell you the same. Let me say this, and I'll say much more about this when we get into the content of our course, but I want you to hear me say it in this very first session. You cannot program your way as a church leader into revitalization. A lot of churches want that. They want a program. They want a set of things to do, and they want to put together a plan and think that that plan is going to lead them into better health as a church. there is no programming of revitalization. Now, you can certainly make better plans. You know the old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So even if spiritually everything's right, if you don't take the time to make your plans and to engage those plans, then you're not going to see your church be as strong as it really should be. But what I want you to hear me say is this: plans in and of themselves and programs in and of themselves will not lead any church to revitalization. You cannot have revitalization in your church without revival. And you don't have revival truly without repentance. And so I wanted to expose you to the writings of Ravenhill, again in that classic book, Why Revival Tarries. And as you begin to read it and allow his work to gravitate down into your heart, you're going to understand very quickly why I wanted you to read that book. And then there's 3 other resources that I will make available to you on the Sakai platform as PDFs. These will come to you free of charge. But there's these 3 resources that my colleagues and I at the Kentucky Baptist Convention have written. First of all, the Revitalization Pastor Survey. And then secondly, Strengthening Congregational Prayer. And thirdly, Breaking Barriers in Smaller Churches. And so those works will guide particularly the latter part of our study of church revitalization. Let me talk to you a little bit about assignments. First of all, I want you reading. Students will read the texts completely. In other words, by the time we finish this course, I want you to be able to say with integrity that I have read McIntosh, I've read Ravenhill, and I've also read those 3 Kentucky Baptist Convention booklets. The class lectures. And so these sessions, the videos that you watch, won't come solely from the texts, but those texts will supplement the videos. So in some cases, and you'll see this in your class schedule, I've asked you to read certain things before you watch the video or engage in the session, because that's just going to supplement a lot of what I talk about. But my lectures, these videos, will come from other sources and not just solely your reading. And so some of your quiz questions too will come from some of the assigned reading for the day and not from the lecture. So I want you reading, and particularly read what I've assigned for that particular week or session before you watch the video, and certainly before you engage the weekly quiz. So there will be weekly quizzes. Now, this particular course this semester is completely online. I've taught this class before where it's hybrid, and I've taught it just in the classroom with physical students there in the room. But this semester it's completely online. And so part of SAC's requirements for the accreditation of the Bible College and all of the classes is that the college has to monitor the online classes. In other words, there has to be a mechanism in place to ensure that students are engaging the material on a weekly basis. And there's a variety of ways that you can do that. One of the ways is a discussion board, but in lieu of a discussion board, I prefer just to give you quizzes. They'll be very simple, they'll be to the point, and so on each Wednesday, following the Tuesday class session, we'll upload a brief quiz on Sakai. The content primarily will be over major portions of the material that I present in the lecture, and potentially from some of the assigned reading. So for you as online students, this will be in lieu of a discussion board, and each quiz has to be submitted by 11:55 p.m. on the following Monday. This is just as good a place as any for me to talk to you about that weekly schedule. Our class on the master schedule at Clear Creek is scheduled for 2:30 on Tuesdays. And so sometime right around 2:30, or in some cases even before 2:30, I will open up the session on the Sakai portal. And so you have from 2:30 every Tuesday until 11:55 p.m. the following Monday to engage the material. So your quiz has to be taken sometime. Now, please understand me. I think you get this, but you do not have to watch the lecture and you don't have to engage the material at the 2:30 hour each Tuesday. You can do that anytime you want from Tuesday to that following Monday at 11:55. But you've got to do it by that following Monday, because at 11:55 sharp Eastern Standard Time, the quiz will shut down. And if the quiz shuts down, you won't get credit for that session. So that's the quiz assignment. There'll be a simple paper that I'm asking you to do this semester. So each student will write a 5 to 6 page response paper to the Ravenhill text. Each online student will submit a PDF copy of his or her paper via Sakai by the end of the class session on the assignment's due date. The paper should be formatted this way: 1-inch margin all around throughout the whole page. It's double spaced, but I only want you to use a 12-point font. Now, I'm being a stickler here. I'm not a stickler about a lot of things. You're going to find out this semester that I'm kind of a roll with the punches, very open type guy. But I do want you to use either Times New Roman or the Cambria font for your paper. 12 points, double spaced, 5 pages, or even over into 6 pages if you need to spill over a little bit. Some of you are long-winded preachers, so I've given you that option of spilling over into 6 pages, but 5's enough. So you have to pace yourself. You have to write succinctly. You have to organize your thoughts to be able to do it. But you will do this paper as part of your assignment. The response, I want you to know, may be written in the first person. If you've done academic writing already, you're going to discover that in much of academic writing, you've got to adhere to academic writing standards like writing in the third person. But again, this is a very practical class, and this is a very practical assignment. So feel free to use the first person pronouns, I, me, all that type of thing. It will include a title page. That title page is not included in the page count. So you can't give me a title page and then 4 pages of writing. It's got to be a title page and at least 5 pages of writing after the title page. There'll be a bibliographical entry at the top of the first page, a summary of the book, however you want to summarize the book, in no more than a page and a half. And then here's the meat of what I really want you to do. I want you to see this. This is not a book review. I don't want you to tell me whether or not the author has accomplished his purpose for the book. I don't want you to expose the thesis or anything like that. I want you to interact with the book. So as you read it, you're going to pick 5 significant issues or insights that you glean from the book, and you're simply going to discuss those, why they're important to you, why you think Ravenhill thought they were important, how you can apply them in the local church. You can take direct quotes from the book and you can put those in quotation marks with parenthetical notation. In other words, if you quote Ravenhill, put it in quotation, and then at the end of the sentence, just put the page number in parentheses so that I know that you're quoting Ravenhill directly. No 2 insights in the paper can come from the same chapter. So those 5 insights must come from different chapters, and they should be proportionate in length. In other words, I want you to really think through this assignment. I don't want you to write a full page on your first insight and then less writing on your next 4. I want all 5 insights to be proportionate as you engage them and discuss them in your paper. I'll talk more about this when we get closer to the due date, but I want you to write proportionately for each of those insights and use a header to begin each discussion of the insight. Here's what I'll do. When we get closer to the due date, I will give you an example, not an example paper, but an example of the form so that you'll know exactly what I want it to look like. And again, it's the kind of thing that you shouldn't have any problems doing. I do want you to use good grammar. Remember, this is a college course, so use grammar check. And for some of you, maybe it's been a while since you've written academically, so this will just be a good exercise for you. By the way, in the church, when you write, you should do everything you do for the glory of God. So in the classroom, even though I'm giving you permission to make this a very practical paper and use the personal pronoun, etc., I do want you to use good grammar, good sentence structure, and all of those things. If you need help at all, don't hesitate to call me to let me know. I'd be glad to help you. And again, I'll provide an example of what the form will look like as we get closer to the due date. There will be 2 exams in this class. There will be a midterm exam, and then there will be a final exam. The final exam is going to cover all of the last part of the class after the midterm exam, and then it will also reach back into the midterm exam and grab some questions, some significant things off of the midterm and incorporate it right into the final exam. And here's how exams work for my class. On the 2 exam days, there will be no lectures because your work will be doing the exam, and that's what's going to prove your class time and everything for those 2 weeks. So there'll be no lectures on exam days. They'll be made available at the class time at 2:30, and they're to be completed in an hour and a half time frame. So once you open the exam, there'll be a countdown, and you'll have an hour and a half to do it. And you can take this exam either of 2 ways. You can take it as closed book. In other words, you put your notes away, you put your book away, and it's just you and your computer screen, and you're taking the exam. Or you can take the exam completely and totally open book with a 10-point penalty. By the way, for those of you that have to make that A, and by the way, I appreciate that. I get that. I was that type of student. I wanted to try to make an A if I could. You can make an A in this course by taking open book exams, but you've got to be spot on. You've got to make sure you answer everything correctly. So just know that you can take an open book, but it will be at a 10-point deduction if you do so. I encourage you to take advantage of that. You've got a lot going on. Several of you are in very active ministry situations. Some of you are bivocational pastors, and so you're working a job and you're also doing your ministry at the church. So don't hesitate, and don't think I would think any less of any of you if you choose to take it open book. As a matter of fact, if I were you and in many of your shoes, where you're already engaged in a lot of full-time work in addition to school, that's exactly how I would take it. So that'll be how we do the exams. Here's how you're going to be graded. The quizzes will count together for 10% of your final grade. The interaction paper, the Ravenhill paper, will be 25%. The midterm exam will be worth 30%. And then that final exam will be worth 35% of your final grade. So that's how all of those assignments will coalesce together to comprise your grade for the semester. If for whatever reason you find yourself struggling and you feel like you need some extra credit, here's what we can do. I'd be glad to assign you another reading, and you can write another interaction paper just like the Ravenhill paper, using those same standards that you have for that paper. And again, I'll assign the reading, and if you do that paper, you can earn up to 10 extra points for the semester. And those aren't average points, those are quality points. In other words, if your average grade is a 75 and you don't want the C, you want a B, you can write this other paper, and if you write it well, you can get those 10 points and then make that 75 and 85. So if you need that, you just let me know, and I'll be glad to provide that resource for you. This is just the standard CCBBC grading scale. 96 to 100 is an A, 91 to 95 is an A minus, 88 to 90 is B plus. You can read that for yourself, but I'll use the standard college grading scale for this course. Finally, let me address class attendance, and there's not much of a reason really to do this because it's an online class, but I'll do it anyway. It's a 2-hour class, therefore any student who misses more than 3 of the class sessions or lessons will fail the class. And here's how we determine activity. You watch the lecture, and I can tell whether or not you've done that. So attendance can be taken that way. Participating in the weekly quiz, that ensures that you're dealing with the material every week. And then, of course, on those days that we do the exams, it will be your participation in the exam that verifies your attendance for that week. All right, that's pretty much all I need to deal with you on at this point. Let me again encourage you to reach out to me, anything that you need. On your syllabus, you'll notice again my cell phone number is there. I do welcome your calls. Do keep in mind that I do this adjunct, and so I may not be able to talk to you or take your call at the exact moment when you call, but I promise you I'll get back to you. And then please notice on the syllabus, I've given you my KBC work email address. I do have a Clear Creek email address, and you're welcome to use that, but let me warn you up front, I only check it about once a week. And so if you need to email me, if you need a quick response, I encourage you to use the Kentucky Baptist Convention email address that I've given you on the syllabus. Well, again, thank you for being a part of this journey. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it'll be meaningful to you. It's my privilege to serve you in this capacity. Please know that's exactly how I feel. I don't get any kicks out of being a teacher or a professor. I want to be your servant and to help you become better prepared to be a servant to the local church. So again, feel free to reach out to me, to contact me any way that I can help you as we go through this journey together this semester. Let me pray for you, and then we'll end this particular session. Lord, I thank you for each and every student who's in this course this semester. Father, several of them juggle an already hectic schedule. Some of them work 40 hours a week and then also at their respective churches. And so these are very, very busy individuals. And Father, some of them are probably already thinking, what have I gotten myself into by becoming a student again? Lord, I just pray that you would calm their nerves and their fears. I pray, Father, that you would help them to enjoy this, help them to find the time that they need to engage in it. And I pray, Lord, that all of us, through this experience and others, would be better prepared to serve you and your bride. Lord, I love you. I thank you for these students. I ask you again to bless each and every one of them this semester. I pray and ask each of these things in the strong and mighty name of the resurrected Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And amen. God bless you, and I'll see you next week.